All right, so welcome everyone to our Lumia Health webinar. Today's March 11, and this is the future of fitting and features for the Lumia Health wearable. And our agenda today, we'll start with introductions and a welcome to you all, and have a quick overview of Lumia 101, just for anyone new who's tuning in for the first time with us to understand how Lumia is different from other wearables out there. Then we're going to cover the future of fitting. Daniel has a pretty exciting reveal for us, so I'm really, really excited to share that one. We're going to talk about direct to iPhone sync and its importance. And then really the last two big topics are very related, and it's about understanding the difference between our consumer Lumia Flow Index versus our lab data, which is eCBF, and how Lumia Flow Index looks for healthy controls versus diagnosed. So this is a question we've been getting a lot, and we wanted to share some more details with you all. Lastly, we're going to end with a final Q&A. And I am Shivani Ugrin. I am handling the marketing and community here at Lumia Health, so you may know me as the host of our social media and Facebook groups. And I'm excited to introduce to you Daniel Ewok Lee. Daniel, say hi.
Hi. Yeah. One of the inventors, original creators, and now it's been 5 years with Paul Jin. So nice to meet if we haven't met before.
And I'll just say here, last year, Lumia Health, we changed our name from Stat Health, but we're all still the same team of people. It's all still our same inventor and co-founders and designers, engineers. So we're all the same people, even though we had that name change. Okay. And so helping me out, helping all of us out on the Q&A today, we have Delaney Jimenez, who is one of our amazing member support teams. So some of you may have already interacted with Delaney if you have messaged in looking for support. So thank you so much, Delaney, for helping us out on that Q&A today. So if you have any questions throughout today's presentation, you can go ahead and hover over that bottom menu, click on the Q&A tab, and you can type your questions in. All right, so starting with a quick Lumia 101. So Lumia is a wearable device. It drops, drops in blood flow to the head, can drive symptoms like dizziness, fatigue, and many other symptoms across a number of conditions. So those conditions might include dysautonomia, including POTS and orthostatic hypotension, vasovagal syncope, myalgic encephalomyelitis, long COVID, or just simply orthostatic intolerance. Lumia tracks blood flow to your head. It's worn in the left ear and uses infrared light to read your external carotid artery. And Lumia is designed to be a tool for self-management of your symptoms. So this is not a medical device. It's not for diagnostic use. Really, it's here to help each one of us understand the factors that raise or lower the blood flow to our heads. Daniel, could you tell us, oh, sorry, this is the components. So if in the Lumia initiation kit, the hardware system that you would receive is first and foremost the Lumia earpiece. So it's custom fit currently with a silicone jacket, and it's designed to be comfortable and compatible to be worn alongside other types of devices. And this is, as far as we know, the world's smallest wearable device, weighing in at less than 1 gram. And also included in our hardware components is the light station. The light station is basically like a docking station for your Lumia. It charges the Lumia earpiece with invisible infrared light, and also serves as the data hub and manages your firmware updates for your Lumia. And then lastly, in our system of components, there's the carry case. And this is just a great option if you're ever in a situation where you're not going to be wearing your Lumia, but you don't have an opportunity to place it in the light station. You could place it in the carry case. And the carry case has a lens on the cover to pick up solar light energy or ambient light energy to help recharge the Lumia while it's in the case. Now, the current state of fitting Lumia, as you can see in the graphic on the right there, that A ideal fit for Lumia balances three different factors. That's comfort, where an optimal fit would feel like nothing. Stability, meaning it's not falling out or losing position unexpectedly. And third would be signal quality. And by that, we mean clear data from your ear. So getting really nice contact of the lenses on this wearable with your ear. And our current fitting system, it's based on 18 different jacket sizes. The Lumia initiation kit that we send to each of our members includes 6 personalized jacket selections based on your virtual ear scan. There is an app-guided fitting process to help you find the best fit of those 6 options. And on occasion, member support will sometimes send out an alternate jacket for a member if something about the current set of options that were sent to them weren't quite perfect for for their ear. We might sometimes send out an alternate jacket. Go ahead,
All right,
Daniel.
yeah, I'll take over here. Okay, so wanted to actually just share very transparently some learnings that we've learned through beta, where this ear fitting process is very novel, it's very innovative, never been done before. And as with such things, you kind of learn things, and that's one of the purposes of beta. And one of the things that we kind of just, so going in, we knew from our kind of internal studies and characterizing it on like over 100 years, we knew we were pretty good, but maybe around 10% of ears, we were kind of hesitant if we were actually going to be able to get the requirements of comfortable, stable, and getting a good signal quality. But that was an in-person where we have people in our office that are trained and can like test and actually help someone separately, which is different than a virtual experience where we don't have that hands-on and we're just sending and trying to help guide people through just purely virtually. And so that has been just very frankly a harder experience than we had anticipated. Getting from those 18 down to one, and so we're still struggling to find more than what we expected, around 20% of our members. And thank you to all of our survey respondents because we're constantly trying to triage and understand like where do we need to improve, what do we need to focus our limited resources on, and that's just been a number that's been higher than we expected, and we've been working to get down. Now, we are continuing to improve the virtual fitting experience. We have it's been a few weeks in the works, but we have a real-time data quality tool so you can get more real-time feedback on whether one jacket is better than another. And so that should get some of the, like for many it's taking days, even over a week to figure out the right jacket size for you. But with this kind of real-time tool that you can run in a few minutes, you can compare jackets much more quickly. So there are tools on the roadmap, or actually very shortly, that will make that experience go faster. But there's going to still be an upper limit, and that's kind of been on the back of our mind, weighing heavily, and just kind of seeing it's just not a pleasant experience if you're so excited and you can't find a fit that works. And so we've in parallel been working on a kind of alternate backup plan, and that is what the Lumia clip is. So this is a tiny clip that is an alternate way to wear Lumia. When we kind of relooked at some of the like the arteries and how they're moving in the ear, there's one other location that is pretty reliably having the artery present, and that's where we're targeting this in this kind of earring cuff form factor. Now I actually have one in my ear, so I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can see what that looks like. This is still made out of prototype material. It's not yet available. It's not we are just almost ready to kick off the tooling, but you can see this is what it kind of looks like. Now I'm going to take it off and you can see how it actually works is you can take your Lumia, this will be the same kind of clear silicone, and it's in this jacket or it's not really a jacket, it's just part of this clip. And then you can insert your Lumia inside. Now there's a rigid region that is this blue region. And then we have this kind of flexible region that is this white region. It's made out of silicone and it's adjustable. There's a little clip here. If you can see, it like kind of clicks into place, and there's I think 4 or 5 different stepping points.
Daniel,
So
can you show that closer to the webcam? Yeah, there we go.
yeah, so it's these are made out of kind of prototype 3D printed materials, but this is this is our final design that we're now getting molded. And so that's how that works. And so you can fine tune it. It's a one size fits all. You can now hold this back, and I'm just gonna clip it on my ear like this. Just pull my ear through, and then you can just squeeze or have the adjustable clip squeeze a little bit tighter, and that can be adjusted to fine tune signal quality and comfort. And so that is the clip. Now I will share my screen again. So this is just a totally alternate way. You can for the people that are wearing jackets and have a good fit, like there's pros and cons to both, and you can absolutely continue wearing the jacket. We're going to just provide all of them. So this is an alternate way to wear Lumia. It solves fit issues for most people. So those 20% that are experiencing jacket problems, like this is an alternate way to wear it. And it's going to be provided free to all Lumia members. Now, here's just some pros and cons, because there are pros and cons to different design choices. So Lumia jackets, I mean, there's 18 different sizes. There's a kind of a more involved virtual ear scan and fitting process, whereas the clip, there's benefits, one size fits all. There's none of that is relevant. The time to fit can be a lot faster, as you saw, once you kind of figure out the mechanism, and it's kind of like getting it on your ear. There's a little bit of a technique to learning that, but once you figure that out, it's very fast there's no like finding the right fit. It doesn't necessarily fit all ears, but we are seeing that it's, at least in preliminary studies, it's succeeding on the vast majority of ears. There are some ears that in that specific location, the ears are so diverse. There's so many different angles to these flaps, and sometimes there are some percentage that the clip doesn't quite still get a good signal quality, but we have seen many people that have had issues with a jacket and getting good signal quality, and then the clip solves that for them. They're actually fairly different parts of the ear, so they're kind of decoupled. So we hope that of the 20% remaining that are having issues, 90% of you are going to be able to have a solve with the clip form factor. It is much harder to lose because it grabs a lot tighter, and you definitely know if it's getting ripped out of your ear. Whereas Lumia, I mean, right now, so far on many hundreds of people, we're seeing somewhere between a 1% to 2% loss rate. So it's not super high, but it is not like immaterial. It is a number that is like whereas the clip, I mean, these are all estimates right now because we don't have large scale hundreds of people data with this yet, but we think that it should be dramatically lower, much harder to lose. It's a different aesthetic, so it is more kind of jewelry-like versus, so that might, it's a design choice or fashion choice for some, and it is a little bit like it's going to have more of an issue with AirPods. You got to have a larger ear for it to have a chance with AirPods, and maybe some over-ear headphones. It is still compatible with most hearing aids or many hearing aids, but there is kind of pros and cons to the clip option, and that's why we're providing them all for you. Now, one of the questions that we'd have to have as we're going through the molding process here is, what color should the free base clip be? We have a few different options, and I got our CGI friend to simulate a few different finishes. And so we are actually going to have Shivani run a little poll here. So feel free to, okay, there we go. So two questions here. Which do you love, and which would you never wear? We do want the clip to be one that you love, and also is going to be something that most people would be happy with. So there are two considerations to this vote. So please do go ahead.
I can see the answers flowing in, Daniel. Now, if anyone is watching the replay and you're having a moment of sad that you missed the live poll, I will also be putting the same poll in our Facebook group. I'll put it in our all members Facebook group, and then perhaps I'll also put it in our Lumia Open Interest Facebook group. So if you're not in those groups, the Open Interest group is available for anyone. So if you're just interested to be following the Lumia health journey, or to see what other people who do have a Lumia are sharing, you're welcome in that group. And then our members private community is reserved for just those people who have placed an order. So when you're joining that, you can give me the email address associated with your order, and that way I can let you in. All right. Wow, we've got lots of answers coming in. Looks like it's still flowing in, so maybe we just give them another moment here.
And Julie, the bottom three left to right. Bottom left is choice 4, gray clear. Middle bottom is choice 5, dark clear. And then right bottom is choice 6, matte black.
Why is that getting cut off? What happened?
I don't, that might, let me try one other thing.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it's cut off for me, I believe, as well. Where'd it
Okay,
go?
let me try another thing here. It might be my
yeah. So
screen.
now I can see your icon, Doc, and I still can't see. Yeah, I still can't see that. Maybe the image was oversized.
There we go. How about that?
Oh, I see it now. Yes,
All
we have
right.
rose gold, yellow gold, and gold. Oh, and this is the next.
Oh, this is the next
Wrong
slide.
slide,
Okay,
wrong slide. Okay.
back to the slide.
Okay. Well, you didn't see that, everyone. That was
Yeah. That's
a
the next vote.
premature slide.
Okay,
Um,
my doc is really wanting to show itself.
okay. Can you hide, Doc? If you right,
I
Doc.
don't know how to.
Uh, turn hiding on.
I
Uh,
don't know if the doc just does that.
it's okay. I think they're figuring it out based on
Yeah, from the
we have
votes.
some very clear voting. This community has their strong opinions, and I love that. So yes, and the votes are still flowing in. So we'll leave this open just for another
Okay,
moment. We do. Oh, yeah. So,
great.
and meanwhile, if you have questions, please punch them into the Q&A box. And Delaney is live answering the easy ones, and then the challenging ones we're gonna make Daniel answer. Let's see. All right. Seems like voting has slowed down a little. Maybe has everyone gotten your votes in? Seems like, seems like maybe. All right, because I know we want to keep this show on the road here. Are you still
Aha.
trying to figure out the doc?
I got it. I got it. All
You
right.
got it. Oh, okay, good job.
Okay, should we go to the next vote?
Okay, I think we should close this poll. You have from the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. All right. Wait, should we show them the results?
Uh, I guess. I don't know
Okay,
if,
let's do the
yeah.
reveal really quick. Can you guys see well,
Oh,
let me know if you can see
wow.
the reveal. So the number one choice for the base color favorites or that they loved the most was the glossy clear, followed by the matte clear.
All right.
And then for the base clip styles that they would never wear, then most never was the matte black, followed by the dark clear and gray clear. Okay, wonderful. All right,
Cool.
stop sharing. And then let's see. We have, okay, now you're going to show us something else.
Yeah, so the next vote is there's this, so this is kind of the one that we that we'll be providing for free. There has been a request by many people that have done like seen this earlier to create kind of blinged up premium versions, and that is I mean it's more work, and our focus right now is all on the free base clip right now, just trying to get this out because we really want to just solve the signal quality problem for some people. So that's our focus, but we are looking at possibly providing premium finish options
Woo.
and figuring out that. And so we don't want to do everything, and we're probably going to limit to like the really popular ones that people are actually going to want to purchase. I don't know the exact pricing of it yet, as I haven't done this before. We're working with some vendors, like budgetary pricing. When we kind of look at other companies that do this, like Aura as an example, think probably like around $100, something like that. So it is an add-on, but that's kind of probably what we're going to be looking at. So the question that we're now going to ask, and Shivani's going to put up as a poll, is knowing that that's roughly the range, which should we make? Like, which ones, if that's the thing that would you actually be like consider purchasing? And we probably want to reduce this down to a subset of colors.
Oh, I see the votes flowing in. Oh, this is so exciting. So Daniel, you may have talked about timeline, but talk to us a little bit about timeline some more.
Oh, so okay, so timeline wise, we are in the process of tooling is the design. There's a process called design for manufacturability to make sure it's actually can be mass manufactured. So that is process is almost complete, and so we're looking at kicking off tooling pretty shortly. Our drop down deadline is Wednesday to say let's just start cutting tooling. Now that's starting tooling. Now the tooling estimates, these are making these large, expensive metal molds that can shoot very hot molten plastic into it and figuring out various processes. And so that timing is usually on the order of, at least our current quote from our primary vendor that's been good, is 5 to 6 weeks. So from 5 to 6 weeks standpoint is that's when we're getting first parts. There's some validation and some just, if all goes well, we're talking in a couple of months, but it's hard to say exactly when like in case something goes wrong and something is not made correctly, it might take a little longer. So that's roughly the time frame. So this is not a tomorrow thing, unfortunately. I wish it was. We've been working on this for 2 months to try to get it right from a signal quality and comfort standpoint, but
Mhm.
it's just going to take a little bit more time. But as soon as this is ready, we're going to be sending them out.
Wonderful. So as we wait for those last votes to come in, get your votes in. I see we've had quite a few people weigh in. But I'll just repeat some of the things you said. So the base clip, the ones that we saw the color choices for on the previous poll, that would be sent for no additional cost to everyone who has a Lumia once they're available. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay, that's pretty exciting. And now we do have one question I can see. So while we get those last few votes in, one of our members who ordered in February was curious if they should wait to get their Lumia for this, or because they just want to make sure they have this. But it sounds like they could go ahead and have their order ship when it's going to ship, and whenever these clips come in, then we would just be sending that to them for no additional cost. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay, great. Well, I think that's amazing. And I think that this is really good news for everyone who is out there. If you've, if we've struggled to find a fit for you, I think this is a really exciting breakthrough. And I know it's hard to have to wait another couple months, but to me, this is just such exciting news. All right, so it seems like everyone who wanted to vote has voted. So I'm going to close in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And let's see the reveal. Our our number one top choice looks
Mm,
like it was the polished silver, followed by the rose gold.
cool.
Cool, cool. And third favorite, matte silver.
Gold. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I
gold.
guess so.
Sorry, gold. Gold and oh,
Both. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
both. Both,
Cool.
both. And least favorite black and least favorite yellow gold.
All
So
right. This is clear.
this
Yeah.
is very clear information. Thank you so much. So we'll also be running this, if in case you missed it, we will also be running the same poll in our Facebook groups. All right.
And
Wonderful.
there's a couple of questions that I can respond to specific to the clip design. Clear clip, yellowing over time. That's one of the things we need to test is we have some materials selected that are supposed to be anti-UV like yellowing. But like these are part of the validation process. If something
Okay.
goes wrong, and so but it is intended to be that way. And the hypoallergenic, the materials are selected to be hypoallergenics. Some of the finishes may not be on the final premium finishes, and that's part of the process we need to figure out. Some if we actually use like certain carats of gold, like certain gold that might be a problem for some people. So those are details we have to figure out. But this is not on a 2 month time frame. We need a little bit more time before the premium finishes are available. Okay.
Okay. Wonderful.
All right, let's keep going here. So I think this is another thing, which is right to Brenda's question of if you're unable to get a good fit and not getting value until it's available, like can you pause your memberships? So we're gonna make it right. Like this is something that we are learning through beta. And so like if you reach out to member support, we are gonna make sure that you are treated fairly and well. So please do reach out to member support if it's a situation like that. So that's the way that we're going to be facilitating it now. So okay, now talking. This is also there are new members that are joining this call today that have not been following on the beta journey and the crowdfunding journey, and this is all very new to people. And so we have open orders again. We're not marketing actively. We just made it so we can receive more orders. And so some of those people that have been joining us more recently may not know certain current limitations. And so one of the ones that's kind of major that we hope wouldn't be true, but is still true at the moment is currently Lumia data only syncs through the light station. It has to be near to the light station, which is in the photo here. That's the white orb, white gray orb. And that's connects to Wi-Fi at home. And that's how we sync data up to the cloud. So this means if you leave home, you're not going to see your data, but Lumia collects and stores the data locally on the earpiece. So when you get back home near the light station, it will sync. But that means if you're out and about at the grocery store, you will not see it until you get back home. So that is a major limitation. That has been our focus for quite a while. It has been challenging to get our tiny, tiny microelectronics and our tiny battery to support that. But that is a major next focus, which we thought would be ready actually beginning of this month, but it's taking a little bit more time than we had expected. We do have it now in a on um, on team members, and I mean it's been with team members, but it's been having issues for beta members. Y'all know the fainting issues that happened earlier. That's happening more with the phones as well as just some data gaps, which we are trying to solve more in the controlled environment before releasing it. So that's kind of been what has why the direct phone has not gone out yet, is we want to make it be more stable and not lose data too frequently. So that's what the current process. It is being rolled out to tens of alpha testers. This is just to verify that we are as to increase our sample size of people that are experiencing the experience and making sure it's working stably. And so it is moving along now, and it has been moving along, but it's making good progress. It's hard to say because this has gone a little slower than we expected exactly when. And that's where we are now is for new Lumia members, we were planning to have this done before we shipped new Lumia members, people that placed orders in February for ship date in March. We were planning to have this already there, but it's not there. There's still a chance that's going to arrive in March, but if we're still running through some issues, and depending on when we want to release it, it may bleed into April. And so that's just a limitation right now that we wanted to communicate to all the new Lumia members that don't know about this. So if we will be sending an email to people that ordered in February, asking if you want to wait until the direct to iPhone is ready, or if you are okay with it syncing only through the light station and you want it to be shipped as soon as possible. So please do look for that email. It should be coming out later this week. If we do not hear a response, we will assume the latter and ship it as soon as direct to iPhone is available. Okay, so now we're gonna kind of also for new people, just going to recap really quickly how Lumia works. We measure flow changes in the external carotid artery, which experiences similar flow changes to the blood flow to the brain in the internal carotid artery, because what happens in the body is when you stand up, gravity pulls blood down, it doesn't get back up, and the blood doesn't get back up to your head. So your heart is not pumping out enough blood, and that's why your brain is not receiving enough blood. And so that affects both the external and the internal carotid artery. So we're measuring at the ear, the external carotid artery, but again, because it's upstream of both arteries, we see it at the external carotid artery. So this is an example of a waveform that we see at the ECA. And we look at morphology or shape. We look at the waveform shape, and the changes in the shape are what we use to infer a proxy to blood flow. So we're not directly measuring blood flow. We're looking at the shape of the waveform that hits the external carotid. So the top is when someone has normal flow, and this is what it looks like when someone has very low flow. You can see it's much more pulsatile, spurty versus a nice long full pulse. So when analyzing that blood flow waveform, there are different ways to analyze it for different goals. So one thing that we haven't done super well in the past is we've kind of mixed up different calculation methods that we've used to calculate blood flow proxies from the waveform and called them both Lumia Flow Index. But there's different kind of ways to run and design algorithms that achieve different goals. And so we're actually going to be making this clear in Lumia Flow Index is the consumer non-regulated metric that is designed for daily self-management. So this is more around helping understand flow changes that are meaningful throughout the day. So it's a little bit of a simplified version because from earlier discussions, getting good signal quality is challenging, and getting good signal quality is important. But if we use a slightly simplified version of the algorithm that's not trying to pick out so many different features, we can have a more stable output. And so that's what Flow Index is focused on. Is throughout the day, there's so many things going on: showering, the various foods, eating, chewing artifacts. There's all sorts of things happening. And so we are using a version that's a little bit more stable to daily motion artifacts. We are also applying a heart rate correction. So for some of the providers in the room, they know there's a lot of medically sophisticated Lumia members. Think of it kind of more like we're correcting stroke volume into more of a cardiac output, where if you like stroke volume, just how much goes up with each heartbeat, but you also have to look at how many heartbeats to see how much blood flow you're actually having. So flow index is tuned more to become more like a cardiac output proxy, where we calibrate and we apply correction factor. So if your heart rate goes up, it doesn't automatically make it go down. It kind of smoothens out heart rate changes. It's also scaled. So we're amplifying small flow changes so you can see what is abnormal or what's kind of affecting your flow and making it go up and down. So this really affects the ability to calculate a flow percentage change, because carotid flow time is measured in hundreds of milliseconds. We map that into a 0 to 100 flow index score to make that more easy to understand. But that makes it so you can't calculate, if you had a flow index of 80 and it drops to 40, that doesn't necessarily mean you had a 50% flow drop. It actually is less than that because it's amplified to, again, make it more easy to see some of these more subtle changes. So that's another thing of like, it's not designed for diagnostic use. It's designed to help understand what things are affecting your flow. So as Shivani put this here, it's kind of amplifying to make something smaller look bigger so you can understand and see it. It's like putting a magnifying glass on your flow. So eCBF is different. External carotid blood flow is kind of what we've been reporting on, and we're only going to be calculating this, and we have mixed this up in the past, and we talked about Lumia Flow Index when we should have been referring to as a different metric, which we're now saying and going to be consistent with, that is external carotid blood flow. So this is built for diagnostic purposes. We're only going to be calculating eCBF during the 10-minute orthostatic vitals test. This is kind of like a stand test that we are going to the FDA to ask for approval for. And the purpose of this is to diagnose clinically significant abnormal blood flow. So trying to make it more clear who is normal and who is not normal from how their blood is getting to their head. This requires more stable signal quality. It's not, because we're going to be using a lot more features in that waveform. So it's not, we need it to be very stable. And so we're only going to be applying it when people are stationary. We're not applying heart rate correction. So we're actually looking, it's more of like a stroke volume surrogate for the providers out there. So this means that it does amplify the diagnostic ability, because your heart rate for many orthostatic people increased quite a bit. But if we correct that out, for people like pods, it's going to make your flow drop not look as significant as it actually is. And so we are leaving, we're not adding the heart rate correction, but that's also another reason why eCBF, they just have different goals. If you're trying to show and spread the difference between normal versus abnormal, or understand your daily, you calculate it differently. So we are going to be using more detailed waveform features. And I'll actually just go into that a little bit. Some feature differences, meaning like what are we actually paying attention into the waveform? With flow index, this is like an example carotid blood flow waveform. Now, there's a lot of features going on here. There's the fullness of this waveform, where flow index is all it's looking at is this red line. It's looking at how long is your heart pumping for in the heart blood flow waveform that hits your ear or hits your head. Now, so flow index is primarily looking at carotid flow time and then correcting for the heart rate. Now, we lose a lot of information in this. The area of the curve, the pulse fullness, is not fully captured only in this red line. And so that's where eCBF actually looks at much more characteristics of the waveform. And there's a lot more information to make it more clear that someone is abnormal versus normal. So that's just a calculation difference of these two metrics. But again, you can see how, like, if we're going to use a lot more of the shape of the waveform, we can't have the shape of the waveform affected by artifacts, whereas this red line is less affected by artifacts. So in the past, we previously called this Lumia Flow Index in a poster we presented at the Dysautonomia International, but we now want to be clear that there are different algorithms. And this is what we're calling Lumia eCBF that will be consistent with. It's more of the diagnostically useful calculation. And that is where we showed like a 17% drop in healthy controls, in orthostatic intolerance versus a 6% drop in healthy controls. For the Lumia Flow Index, which is the simplified version that is more like kind of smoothed out for and corrects for heart rate. If we actually went back and looked at some data to see, okay, now if we just look at the Lumia Flow Index, how good does it differentiate abnormal versus normal flow? And the flow differences are quite muted and different here, where we saw here, for example, the controls are in blue and the orthostatic intolerant are the orange and yellow lines. And that so controls are roughly like a 7% drop, and like a 10 to 12% drop was orthostatic intolerant. So you can see that spread is actually pretty minimal. So that means like with Lumia Flow Index, the consumer version that's not meant for diagnostic use, it's not going to differentiate. You're going to see charts that look quite similar for healthy controls and orthostatic intolerant people. And so that's just kind of just to understand. And this making this distinction is also helpful from FDA purposes. To say the FDA approved one is eCBF. The Flow Index is a consumer non-medical grade. It's useful only for self-management. So that is
Daniel, I think you just misspoke, so I want to stop you.
sure.
You said the FDA approved one is eCBF. The correction would be that we'll be applying for FDA
Correct.
approval for eCBF. It is not yet FDA approved.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for correcting that.
Yes.
So when we're looking just at Lumia Flow Index, because we actually started to look at just more like healthy controls, there's differences, but they're not as dramatic. I mean, we see, as you saw in this previous chart, you can see healthy controls are having decent carotid flow time drops. And you can see like these are example of healthy controls where you can see some flow drops. If you compare them against various people that are orthostatic intolerant, sometimes it's not as significant as orthostatic intolerant, but sometimes it can be kind of similar and it varies. You can have someone that is orthostatic intolerant that looks like a healthy control here on one day, and then if they test again another day when they're not on as many medications and compression, then they can be twice as bad. So it varies a lot day to day. So it's important to not like where on average you can see a difference, but healthy controls also experience blood pooling in the legs. If you ask any healthy control that's standing for an extended period of time, they're going to have similar, but they're going to have some pooling. It's just not going to be as dramatic. And Lumia Flow Index, the simplified version, doesn't tease that apart as well. So that's just one thing where, we've been kind of saying it's important to not kind of, they have different purposes. And I just, like, we'll get in trouble with the FDA if people try to use this and say, this is diagnostically useful. It's more useful for understanding how you can change your blood flow personally. So eCBF is what we're going to, and this is actually a FDA regulatory path now. So I wanted to share for those that are like, oh, I really want the diagnostic thing though. Like we want that too. It's just a longer path. And so this is kind of the path that we're going towards, where eCBF is going to be displayed as part of an orthostatic vitals test that we're asking the FDA to approve. It's very similar to if people have an Apple Watch, the ECG app, where you can use it for kind of doing a triage of atrial fibrillation using ECG. That's the same concept. It's using a general wellness product, but building a medical application on top that the FDA approves that doctors can use for diagnostic purposes. So that is what we're doing with the orthostatic vitals test, using an eCBF percentage change output. Now, also important to this is it's very important to control for many confounding factors, and there's going to be some level of physician judgment in interpreting the data and making sure it's done right. But some of the pros that we are looking at for this orthostatic vitals test is we will be having it done multiple times over the course of a week or a couple of weeks. So you can increase your diagnostic yield significantly, because I'm sure many of you have gone on a tilt table test maybe multiple times, and sometimes you show up as having POTS and sometimes you don't. It varies so much day to day. And so if we can now sample it more times over a longer period of time, we can capture that there is abnormality, just sometimes it doesn't show every day. And that's also, so it's kind of the idea of what, if y'all are familiar with Holter monitors versus doing a 12-lead ECG in the hospital, if you monitor for longer, you can see the abnormality and catch the abnormality more. So that's kind of our goal and our vision for like bringing eCBF as a diagnostic. Again, it's a different calculation though than the Lumia Flow Index, and it is not yet available. We're going to the FDA for approval. We have a bunch of very compelling data, but there's a process to making sure that we do this right. So this is an example though, where like this is what it might look like and what we're showing the FDA. It's not approved yet, but we want to also highlight that sometimes you have significant eCBF drop and sometimes you might not, and it varies a lot, and sampling over a longer period of time will reveal and catch it. Okay, so how should we use the consumer Lumia Flow Index for self-management? So this is just spelling out what this looks like. This is Jessamine, one of our beta members, who has graciously helped to run a little demo for us that was I presented at the American Physical Therapy Association to show more physical therapists how blood flow changes in orthostatic patients. And I'll just play this video here. So most of blood flow, getting blood flow to your head is about getting blood flow to your heart. So there are many things that you can do in your body to get more blood flow back up to your heart. And so what Jessamine's demonstrating, so the gray line dots is is the Flow Index, the consumer version of Flow Index. And you can see that as she is sitting down and put her feet down, let me just go back for a second. So when she's sitting down, when she's laying down and putting her feet up, that's having gravity push a lot of blood towards heart. So her flow is high. When she sits and crosses her legs, her flow drops quite a bit. And then what she does next is put her feet on the ground, and you can see her flow just drop more and more. So these are helpful for understanding like how does, and now she crosses her legs and you can see the flow get back up because she's squeezing, applying pressure to her lower extremities to get blood back up to her heart. So these are examples of like understanding how is it useful for self-management. You can understand how different body postures, she actually just took off her compression there while putting her feet up, so her flow is a little bit lower than when she she put her compression back on, so you can see the flow go up a little bit. But you can see these are actually pretty small changes compared to what you're doing with your posture, where you're putting your legs, where you're putting relative to your heart. And so I think so. These are, I'm gonna stop here, but and you can watch that video on YouTube. But these are examples of like how can you use Lumia for self-management. You can learn various things about day-to-day that help optimize and increase the flow return to your heart. All right, so now this is an example actually of, this is actually a healthy control, but a pretty significant flow drop. This is myself last night, where I forgot to drink water all day, basically for like 8.5 hours. And I felt very off. I felt very tired, exhausted. I just got in the zone and then I forgot about time. And then I decided it was a good time to show an example of like how flow is very variable. So I did a sand test. And I mean, I actually kind of felt orthostatic, but I had a pretty decent flow drop. I can't say what is abnormal or normal, because that's not what Lumia Flow Index is about. But this is abnormal for me. This is like a lower than I usually will ever see. And then what I then did is I went home and I drank water and I had dinner. And then I did the same sand test like 10 minutes after. So maybe all of the fluids didn't really get in yet. But you can see that already my just standing up, my flow was able to stay higher on standing. And so that's kind of an example of understanding like how you can change your flow. Also, like if you're starting to see it into certain ranges, even for healthy controls, now I'm finding different ways because we amplify these changes as a healthy control. I can actually see different ways I can increase and optimize blood flow to my head as well. So there is even some benefit to healthy controls, but that is I think a takeaway here is eCBF and Lumia Flow Index are different. Lumia Flow Index doesn't differentiate healthy versus unhealthy because this can, especially the first shot, looks just like a OI patient. But if you because it's not designed for that, but it does show relative differences in myself. And also, it's just you have to control for confounding variables. And this is part of the OVT test, or orthostatic vitals test, that we want to make sure that people are like we're doing the test at the same time of day. That interventions are we're testing apples to apples here. So all that said, we like in general Lumia Flow Index, the consumer version, you will see a difference, but it's just not as dramatic. And you can have healthy controls look like OI, and you can also have OI, orthostatic intolerant, look like healthy controls with the Lumia Flow Index in certain situations. And so controlling that, it's important to use eCBF for diagnostic purposes. It's also important to control for confounding variables. That's not the purpose of Lumia, but I just wanted to clarify that as and make that distinction more clear. Okay, all right. Some other things to just help people understand, because there's some confusion around artifacts. So there's a couple of artifacts. One is just, I mean, a lot of people are experiencing the jacket sizing issues and not getting good lens contact to your ear. So most of that is related to just not getting a good size that holds the lenses against your ear. And this is an example of what that might look like. It'll be very spotty. The data, we're improving our algorithms to just not output data if it's spotty. But right now it does still put out very spotty data that's changing too dramatically. Shivani likes to call it snowy. And oftentimes this has to do with not enough, like a not optimal jacket fit. And there's many ways to tune that. There's tools in the app to try to help, and that solves for many people, but it doesn't necessarily solve for all people. So the other thing is all of the jackets that were sent to you, and your 6 jackets may not be your optimal size. They're actually, our ear fitting, virtual fitting is not perfect. And so there's a possibility that we have actually a better size for you. So please do reach out to member support if you're having these issues. Now, this is getting contact. There's one other issue that I actually ran into. I've seen it happen a couple of times in beta, but I ran into actually this morning was I wanted to do a stand test early first thing when I woke up, when my body was still half asleep and my heart rate was down in the 50s. And I have good signal quality. I have good contact. I'm using the new clip. But the uh, but the outputs of flow index are completely getting confused because once the heart rate is very low, I've was actually getting down toward in the 40s, then our ability to capture the carotid flow time, like figuring out that the time of systole, gets confused. And we have some data that we've been collecting to improve that. So we will be going down lower, but right now the current version can make it look like this, which also looks snowy, but it's not snowy because of jacket fit or lens contact. It's snowy because one of these conditions are being hit of low heart rate or low blood pressure or sleeping, which often has low heart rate and or low blood pressure. So these are just some things to know about of current known issues, but we do actually have some recent data that should be improving this, but that's not currently live in the field. Okay, I'll pass it over to Shivani. I've been talking a long time.
Sure. Please hydrate, Daniel. So now so many of our members are now receiving their Lumia and getting on board and starting to see their data coming in. And actually, before I share about this slide, I'll just jump in and say, you know, a moment ago we were talking about the shipping timeline for all the new order people, the people who are ordered in just in this February. And of course, we are still completing the shipping on all of our pre-orders from 2023. So if you have a pre-order from back in 2023 or 2024, if you're a beta member, early bird, crowdfunding, or pre-order special, all of those orders, we are looking to ship your order now. So if you have submitted an ear scan, those should all be shipping out this week. And if you haven't been hearing from us, I wonder if we're missing you. So please, you know, if we don't have your ear scan, if you don't have like a scan accepted status in your online Lumia account, please email us support@lumiahealth.com so we can get connected with you, make sure we have your updated shipping address, and get that ear scan. So just to clarify, for any of you with those legacy historical orders that you supported us from the very beginning, we would like to be shipping your order this week, and our hope is to finish shipping all of those before we turn to these new orders. So just to answer one of our questions here in the queue. All right, so but for those of you who are receiving your Lumia, you're starting to see those graphs coming in, and it is so exciting and so validating, and we know that it is very, very tempting to take screenshots and include those in your portal messages to your doctor or to take those to your next appointment. So many of you have said, this is amazing. I'm going to show my cardiologist or my POT specialist or my neurologist. Or I've also heard, this is amazing. I can finally prove that I have these conditions. But I think I hope it was clear with what Daniel shared in the past several slides is that your Lumia consumer app data, this is not medical information. It can't be used for a medical purpose, whether diagnosing something is happening with you or proving to someone that something is happening to you. And it can't be used to make any treatment decisions like, oh, need more meds for this or should stop doing that. So your Lumia data can't be used and shouldn't be used for any medical purpose. And really for that reason, we recommend that you do not even show this to your doctors. So I've been wearing a Lumia now for over a year, and my doctors have never seen my Lumia graphs because it's really important that we don't confuse our doctors, showing them something that is not for medical purpose, because either they need to ignore it and they're going to tell you that this is non-medical information, or if they did take action on it, it might be the wrong action. So please do not tempt your doctors with your really amazing Lumia graphs. Instead, we do recommend that you share our science content. So we have, if you go to lumiahealth.com, check out our website, encourage your doctors to sign up for our email mailing list, and we also have a providers page that's linked from the bottom of our website. So if your doctors are interested in Lumia, they can apply to be included in any future diagnostic or research opportunities. And if you wanted to mail something to your doctor, you could send them a link to our science page, or perhaps to one of our blog posts that highlight some of the recent publications that Lumia has either been mentioned in or a part of. So the most recent of these is pictured here. There was a review just published in February in the Journal of the American Heart Association that reviews the different ways of assessing cerebral blood flow in these orthostatic conditions. And among the other options for assessing this type of blood flow, Lumia technology does get an awesome mention. So this would be a great one to share with your doctors. But please, we ask you not to share your graphs with your medical team or try to use it in any sort of way to change your treatment plan. Only your doctor should make changes in your treatment plan. And then, yeah, I think that's the main thing. The other thing we would encourage you to be careful with is when you're telling other people about Lumia and what we do, we prefer that you say that Lumia is tracking the blood flow to your head and not measuring cerebral blood flow, because as we've really tried to emphasize here, those are not quite the same thing, and we don't want to misrepresent what Lumia can offer for insights. All right, thanks. Next slide, Daniel. Okay. Daniel, are you muted? Because I can't hear you.
Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, great. So we're about to go into Q&A, and if we need to during the Q&A, we can bounce back to some of those prior figures if we need to look at those. But before we answer your Q&A, let me just rapid fire through a few of our top FAQs. So Lumia is for the left ear only. I see 2 or 3 questions that were in the queue asking about a right ear reading. That is just not how our device is configured at this time, but also your body is not symmetrical. So Lumia is for the left ear only. Lumia is also for adults only. We are not, our algorithms are not validated on pediatrics, and as well as the Flow Index and other
The jackets.
and the jacket sizing as well is not for pediatrics. So please, if you want to order this for your child, we recommend that they would be 18 years of age or older by the time their device ships.
5-minute time check, Shivani. So we might want to.
Okay.
Should we just leave it up and then answer questions, or do we want to go through all of them?
Well, these are included in some of our questions. So it's available for the 50 US states only. It's for iPhone only. We do not have a Android timeline. Lumia is HSA and FSA eligible, subject to your plan rules. We cannot yet accept those cards at checkout, but you can do a reimbursement process if your plan allows. You can wear Lumia in the shower, but not for swimming or immersion. Lumia works through infrared light and works for all skin tones. It is based on a solar charging system. Stat Health is now Lumia Health. Our team is the same, so this was just a name change we did last year. For now, we emphasize that you disregard your data during exercise and sleep. Lumia is designed for POTS, dysautonomia, orthostatic hypotension, syncope, long COVID, ME, and many other conditions, where if it's a condition that is associated with these postural changes in blood flow to the head. Lumia is not a treatment, it's not a VNS, it's a tracker. It's not a medical device, this is for your self-management only. It is compatible with most hearing aids and most earbuds and hearing protection, but there is individual variation, and certainly depending on the model of device you're looking at, you might just want to look at the photos of how Lumia sits and also how our new Lumia clip will be sitting. For piercings, there may be some that are an issue. So again, this might differ between which Lumia fitting style you're talking about. The pricing is $379 for the Lumia initiation kit plus a required membership. The pricing of that varies based on how long a term, and all that pricing is on the website right now. Orders are open, and the financial assistance program, we did have selections made by our patient advisor council, and we should be notifying those individuals as well as the rest very, very soon. Okay, so let's jump into Q&A. Daniel, did you already find a couple you want to answer first?
Yeah, I'll kind of fire through them. So will the medical eCBF ever be available on the consumer end? our path and what we're asking the FDA to prove is very similar to ECG app, that it's just included. It's not no extra cost. It's just part of the Lumia experience. But that's still also subject to FDA approval. They might want to say it has to be prescription only. That's TBD. But our goal is to make it accessible like the ECG app. So no additional cost and just part of the consumer app. It's just a feature inside of the app. The 3D printable option, Elaine, asking if you can give you a 3D printable for those that have 3D printers. Unfortunately, the molds, it's not just 3D printing. There's both the hard plastic and silicones, and it's kind of a complex thing to prototype. So it's not like a standard consumer printer that would be able to pull have this work out. So I wish that's a great idea. It requires non-standard 3D printing things to be able to do this. Metric that matches the function of John is asking, can I have a metric that matches the function of a transcranial Doppler tilt test? Is that the eCBF function? Correct. It is the eCBF function we are going for. And we have shown good correlation of corrected carotid flow time with transcranial Doppler ultrasound. But that's part of what we are going to FDA is that the eCBF metric that is part of the Orthostatic Vitals medical software app, like a feature that would be like we're doing that as a comparison against ultrasound transcranial. So, okay. You can chime in too, Shivani. Now those are the ones I was rapid firing. Does Lumia give?
Let's see, we had two people ask about vagus nerve stimulators using either a VNS or a TENS unit on the Symbioconcha while wearing a Lumia device. Is that a bad idea or a good idea?
It doesn't fit, unfortunately. I mean, now with the clip, it's possible it might, but
I think the concern would the electrical current be an issue for Lumia? Like, would they potentially damage their Lumia, or would they be free to give it a shot?
It would be extremely unlikely to damage your Lumia. I'm actually curious in that. I'm trying to. We actually did have this question come up earlier, like where it doesn't seem very likely. If it does, let us know. And a part of your lifetime warranty, that's something that we are not saying doesn't happen. So if it has an issue with that situation, we'll make sure you get a unit that is working well. If that were to cause an issue, but it seems very unlikely. We would love to know if it did though.
Okay, a few people have asked about alerts or notifications. What's going to be possible, and how soon might they expect that to happen?
So direct to iPhone is the thing that's been just brutal for us in trying to get out the door, because that's really what makes all of the usefulness significantly increase to have it throughout the day. So that's kind of the first step. Once we get the direct to iPhone out, so you can go out about and see your flow on the go, then some of these kind of more real-time features like nudges, which is our kind of notification system, that those will start to come into play, like start being prioritized. But right now it's all been about stability, get Bluetooth out, figure out how to make sure a higher percentage of people could be successful with getting a good fit. Yeah.
Okay, great. And then once we did have those notifications that someone could set, if they have a compatible smartwatch, then that notification could pop up on the watch as well, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, wonderful. And someone asked about that. Let's see, hyperbaric chamber. Would the pressure damage Lumia or cause the readings to be unreliable?
I have not I have not done research into understanding.
Oh yeah, there's different levels. So there's mild HBOT and then there's full on HBOT, and they have different levels of pressure, and also I think different best practices for how fast that pressure comes on.
Yeah. We have not tested it in that situation either. So it's hard to say until we test it.
Okay, so for the individual, they might be served then and not risking damage to the earpiece until we have more information on that point.
Yes, and I think in a similar vein, I just want to make sure if you decompress from high pressure like that quickly, which is very bad for your body, that also could cause like the earpiece. I don't think it would be dangerous, but it's just not recommended to decompress something rapidly that's not designed to be decompressed rapidly. I don't think your body can handle that fast of decompression anyways, though. So I guess the point is, I think in the same situation, you could please actually email member support about it. I want to ask about your use case a little bit more, and then maybe we can see if it makes sense for you to try, and if it we can say if you can try, and if it if it fails, we'll lifetime warranty it. Yeah,
That's good to know. Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
so if they want to try it, they should reach out to member support and
correct.
we'll make a deal.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, and another member is asking about, extremes of heat or infrared sauna. So again, kind of same answer. At what point does Lumia shut itself off for heat? And would the infrared in a sauna cause wild readings or?
Sorry, one more time. I was reading. Oh, can I use Lumia in
Sauna
a
or
sauna? Yeah.
infrared sauna?
Yeah. Max temperature, I believe, is 60 C or 55 C. I don't know how hot. There are some saunas that get extremely hot, so we would not recommend those temperatures. So as long as that's inside that temperature, it should be okay. And then infrared, depending on the infrared light that we use, it's going to charge the Lumia well. We have a solar panel that will get lots of charge, but it may also cause, like we use infrared light to also interrogate the artery, so it possibly could be an issue. Um, but from a damage standpoint, just keep inside the temperature range of it was either 55 or 60 C. You can check that on the site.
Okay, great. So one person is asking for the graphs that you showed us, could you clarify which ones were from healthy controls versus those with OI? So if you roll back, so the ones that were me, I'm diagnosed with a lot of things. Which ones were me? Or
I
did that
forget.
apply?
I think some of these were, if I recall correctly, the right side were, and then the left side are healthy controls. But
Okay.
you can have healthy controls that look kind of more like this one here. Maybe not as significant as this one, but that's
Yeah.
like, I mean, that's what I did when I was dehydrated, is like I had it look pretty similar. So
Right.
it's
And you're not
possible. Yeah.
diagnosed with, yeah, so the
No.
point here is it's almost like it almost doesn't matter about labeling healthy controllers or not, because Lumia Flow Index is not the right tool for understanding the difference between a healthy control and a diagnosed person. Um, Lumia Flow Index, our consumer version of this information, it's making mountains out of molehills. And so it's really amplifying those changes so that I can understand which compression sock is helping me more, or which whether the sugar in my coffee is beating out the caffeine. So it's really amplifying those changes, and it just ends up amplifying the changes in a typical person who doesn't have these disorders as well. But this will all be different than the eCBF.
Yeah, Ashley has a great question here that I want to bring up. Is it possible to compare the Lumia Flow Index readings against ones from a week, month prior, year prior, or does the algorithm processing make that not possible? Like if it is amplified at 1 week versus another. So it will be in the or it is the one caveat with Lumia Flow Index is and this is going to change. Like it was an issue that affected some small percentage of people, but did affect some Lumia members. Is we are making some updates to the way Lumia Flow Index calculates. We are adding a few different, there's some things from the eCBF algorithm and some of these other more advanced features that we're trying to introduce into the Lumia Flow Index consumer version to make it more sensitive, but also not introduce more instabilities. But like, for example, hypotension correction. If you have low blood pressure, that drops your flow. That's also should reduce the flow more, but that requires us to tie in some more waveform shapes. And so the Lumia Flow Index is slightly evolving over time, which may change your kind of like baseline reading. Because if you're someone who is hypotensive regularly and we add hypotension correction, your flow values are going to get lower. And then all of a sudden you're going to have lower flow than the prior version of the Lumia Flow Index. So in general, this shouldn't happen frequently, but we do want to improve the consumer version of Lumia Flow Index algorithm, which may cause some of these baseline shifts. But we will do a better job in the future of communicating, hey, we're doing an algorithm update that is going to shift things in a certain direction. And so that is still on the roadmap because we haven't added hypertension correction, and there's a couple more improvements we want to add in. So the answer is yes, except in situations where we change minor updates to the algorithm.
Okay, well, we may be running out of time, so
Oh yeah, oh we're way out of time.
yeah, so we did have one person asking about Bluetooth exposure. Could you just explain the difference in terms of our Bluetooth versus something like an earbuds?
I mean, we use I mean, We have an extremely tiny battery that can't support very much Bluetooth. That's actually what's causing some of these challenges of getting direct-to-phone Bluetooth out, is we have to sip the Bluetooth very minimally compared to any other like Bluetooth headphones that stream and use a lot of Bluetooth power, so that we have a tiny fraction of Bluetooth power that we're using compared to other larger Bluetooth devices. So in terms of chronic exposure, it's, yeah, you're wearing it much longer than other devices, but it's a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction of what you'd be exposed to with a like a music streaming AirPods, for example. Okay. All right. I think we should.
Great. So yeah,
Yeah.
we could close up. And I think, as we close, I think it's just good to restate some of the main takeaways from today's session with respect to the three main topics. So the first topic was the future of fitting. That is this new Lumia clip. So if you are one of those people that have, we haven't been able to find a really great fit for your jacket quite yet, the point here is, please don't give up hope. We are working very hard behind the scenes to make that happen for you, and we want to make that right for you. So we're hoping that this new Lumia clip is going to be a major problem solver for so many of our members. The timing of that, you said, was a few months, a couple or a few months out.
Hopefully a couple months. But I mean, these things are unpredictable. But we think that's our rough timing.
And that would be just shipping automatically to all of our members who have ordered a device. So if you already have your device, we'll just mail that out to you by itself. And then if your order was still in our queue, we would just slip that in your order box. All right, the second topic was that direct to phone sync. And what again was the timeline on that roughly, Daniel?
Yeah, I mean, we expect it to be ready in the beginning of March. The team is now projecting, oh, it's still gonna be in March, but we're not. That's where we might be able. There's a chance it bleeds into April, so that's like the rough timing. But I mean, yeah, so a month, give or take a couple weeks.
Okay. I'm going to say it's coming up next. And then
Yeah, good.
the last topic was, understanding that difference between our consumer data versus our lab data, and the difference between the Lumia Flow Index, that consumer version, and the eCBF, which is that, clinical platform. And I think the takeaway really was that this version that we have in our phones, that I have in my ear right now, the graphs I'm seeing, this is all amplified to make small things look bigger, so that I, as a person with these conditions, can make stronger decisions for my self-management of my symptoms. So I can see that stronger difference between showering, standing up versus showering with a shower chair to make it more useful for me on a day-to-day. But that is going to make someone like yourself, Daniel, look almost more like me, right? And so we just want to understand that this can and or cannot and should not be used to try to make a case for disease or be diagnostic or to make any modifications in a treatment plan.
But we are working on it in a separate controlled and improved like an algorithm that uses more information, but that's not what the consumer current one is currently used for and cannot, yeah, it would
Correct.
cause regulatory issue. Yeah.
Exactly. And we want to be on the right side of that regulatory situation. So for those who are patient, yes, the plan would eventually be that at such time as the FDA approves this, that we hope and really hope that this is something we could just turn on as a feature for you in the app if the FDA allows us to. If the FDA instead says, no, this needs to be based on prescription, then that might be a bigger challenge to get for you. All right, so thank you so much. If you have additional questions, please message member support. The email is support@lumiahealth.com, and we are looking to ship all those remaining pre-orders. If we have your ear scan, those should be shipping this, like Maggie told me today, they're shipping this week if they haven't already shipped. And if you haven't talked to us lately, if you haven't sent us an ear scan, please, please, please message us, support@lumiahealth.com, because we do need to get that ear scan from you so that we can ship your order and confirm your current mailing address, because it's been a while. But we do want to ship all of those orders before we dive into shipping the new orders. And a word to the new order people, don't worry, we are not delaying your order based on the old order people not getting their ears scanned in. So don't worry, we're not delaying yours on behalf of someone else not taking action. So everybody be happy. All right. Thank you so much, Daniel, for joining us today. Thank you, everyone who came. I will be posting the replay in the Facebook group, and it will automatically email to everyone who registered. So thanks, everyone, and have a great evening.
Good night.
Bye. And thanks to Lenny for answering in the Q&A.
Yeah. Thanks, Ellie. Okay. Bye.
Bye.